Now, Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he was the son of his old age. He made him a robe of many colors. But when Joseph's brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. Now, Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, "Hear this dream that I have dreamed. We were binding sheaves in the field, and my sheaf arose and stood upright, and your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf." His brothers said to him, "Are you indeed to reign over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers. "Behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me." But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you?" And his brothers were jealous of him. But his father kept the saying in mind. Now Joseph's brothers went to pasture their father's flock. Jacob said to Joseph, "Go now, see if it is well with your brothers and with the flock, and bring me word." His brothers saw him from afar, and they conspired against him to kill him. "Here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we will say that a fierce animal has devoured him, and we will see what will become of his dreams." But when Reuben heard it, he rescued him out of their hands, saying, "Let us not take his life. Shed no blood. Throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him." So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the robe of many colors that he wore, and they took him and threw him into a pit. And looking up, his brothers saw a caravan of traders coming on their way down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the traders, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our own flesh." And his brothers listened to him. They drew Joseph up from the pit and sold him for 20 shekels of silver. And the traders took Joseph to Egypt. Then his brothers took Joseph's robe and slaughtered a goat and dipped the robe in the blood. And they brought the robe of many colors to their father and said, "This we have found. Please identify whether it is your son's robe or not." And he identified it and said, "It is my son's robe. A fierce animal has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his garments and put sackcloth on his loins and mourned for his son many days. Now Joseph had been brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, had bought him from the traders. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man, and he was in the house of his Egyptian master. His master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord caused all that he did to succeed. So Joseph found favor in Potiphar's sight, and attended him, and Potiphar made him overseer of his house, and put him in charge of all that he had. At that point, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. Now Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. And after a time, his master's wife cast her eyes on Joseph and said, "Lie with me." But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Because of me, my master has no concern about anything in the house, and he has put everything that he has in my charge. He is not greater in this house than I am, nor has he kept back anything from me except you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" And as she spoke to Joseph day after day, he would not listen to her, to lie beside her, or to be with her. But one day, when he went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house were there, she caught him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand and fled and got out of the house. And as soon as she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled, She called to the men of her household and said to them, "See, he has brought among us a Hebrew to laugh at us. He came in to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. And as soon as he heard that I cried out, he left his garment beside me and fled." Then she laid up his garment by her until Potiphar came home, and she told him the same story. As soon as his master heard the words that his wife spoke to him, his anger was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners. The keeper of the prison paid no attention to anything that was in Joseph's charge, because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, the Lord made it succeed. After 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile. And behold, there came up out of the Nile 7 cows, attractive and plump, and they fed in the reed grass. And 7 other cows, ugly and thin, came up out of the Nile after them, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. And the ugly thin cows ate up the 7 attractive plump cows. And Pharaoh awoke. And he fell asleep and dreamed a second time. And behold, 7 ears of grain, plump and good, were growing on one stalk. And after them sprouted 7 ears, thin and blighted by the east wind. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 plump full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. So in the morning his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was none who could interpret them. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, "I remember my offenses today. When Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me and the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, we dreamed on the same night, he and I, each having a dream with its own interpretation. A young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams to us, giving an interpretation to each man according to his dream. And as he interpreted, so it came about." Then Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and they quickly brought him out of the pit. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it." Joseph answered Pharaoh, "It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer." Then Pharaoh told his dreams to Joseph, and Joseph said to Pharaoh, "The dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 cows are 7 years, and the 7 ears are 7 years. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Egypt, and let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming, and store up grain for food in the cities. That food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to occur in the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish through the famine." This proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find a man like this in whom is the Spirit of God?" Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you." Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. So when the famine had spread over all the land, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians and all the earth, for the famine was severe over all the earth. When Jacob, Joseph's father, learned that there was grain for sale in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Go down and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die." And Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. Then Joseph could not control himself, and he wept aloud. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. But Joseph said to them, "Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So do not fear. I will provide for you and your little ones." Thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to them.